Let me know.
Here you go.
All right. Well, welcome to the Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 Warrenton Board of Alderman meeting. You can either see us on Zoom with meeting ID 956-274-8536, or you can call in with your comments with 312-626-6799 or email them. And with that, I'll open the public hearing section of the board meeting. Anyone?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Public hearing tonight is regarding water and sewer rates. So I have a script related to the sewer rates first. I would like to make part of the public record the municipal code by reference and public hearing notice published in the Warren County Record on May 14th of 2020. The proposed rate increase for sewer is 4%, which is the amount included in the revenue bond offering statement calculation for the 2021 budget. The average town residential customer will see an increase of 96 cents a month, and an average in-town commercial customer will see an increase of $3.16 per month. The rate increase will be effective August 1st of 2020 upon approval of the ordinance by the board. That is the statement regarding sewer. There is another statement regarding the water rates. I would like to make part of the public record the municipal code by reference and the public hearing notice published in the Warren County Record on May 14th of 2020. The proposed rate increase for water is 4%, which is the amount included in the revenue bond offering statement calculation for the 2021 budget. The average in-town residential customer will see an increase of 86 cents a month, and an average in-town commercial customer will see an increase of $3.45 per month. The rate increase will be effective August 1st of 2020 upon approval of the ordinance by the board.
And all of it will be duly noted. Does anybody have any questions about either issue on the sewer or on water?
Nope.
Melody, have we had anybody either call or text in or email in any questions on that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I have a couple comments. I think taxpayers or those who are users of the water and sewer need to remember that this was all part of, some of the increase is all part of the bond package that was approved so that we could do improvements in the water system and the sewer system going north of town to the plant. And the other piece I think it's important to remember is that if we do periodic small increases on a consistent basis, that means that we don't have to come along at some point in time and do an extremely large increase. So we found out from past experience that it's far better off to do smaller incremental increases than come along and all of a sudden nail people with a large increase. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. Is somebody going to cover the next piece, Terry?
That's me, Mayor. The Keevan Family Partnership, is that what we're on, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so we have on for public hearing tonight a petition for annexation filed by the Keevan Family Partnership. This is a voluntary annexation. I would ask for purposes of this public hearing that the application be made a part of the record, which is notarized by Lisa Redding, the authorized agent. The drawing that shows that Lewis and Beatty prepared with regards to what length of property and width is going to be annexed into the city or requested to be annexed in the city. Copy of the city ordinances be made a part of the record. And finally, a copy of the public hearing notice be made a part of the record by this reference here today. Bart, are you here on this annexation?
Yes, I'm here.
So he is here to answer any questions on behalf of the petitioner. As as far as the city's concerned, we have nothing further to offer into the record.
It'll all be duly noted. Thank you.
Yeah,
Any questions?
can I ask Bart something? So looking at the plat, could you give us a little bit more descriptive of where this exactly is? It comes off a Sunnyside Road, and it's kind of, it's hard to get a frame of reference. What's it backing into?
Sure. I don't, it's not on the, all I see is the agenda on the screen, but anyway, it's, there you go. So it's a portion between some larger tracts of ground and the Nicodem property that we annexed almost a year ago, I believe. And so it's on the east side of the Nicodem property. There's 2 houses that face Sunnyside that sit on that property. Maybe a third of the way up from Sunnyside. There's 2 houses there, one on the left, one on the right, that aren't shown on that plat map, but that's about where they sit. So it's a narrow strip, but it's wide enough to put a street down the middle and lots on each side, which, in the future, you might be seeing a preliminary plat in a couple months, pending a rezoning approval. But that's where that's at is east of Nicodems. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, I'll go ahead and bring the Warrenton Board of Aldermen meeting public hearing section to a close and open the regular meeting up with the consent agenda items.
We have the regular meeting minutes from May 19th, 2020.
I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dyer, seconded by Alderman Miller. Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next is the public comments received via email.
There were none.
Next will be the Board of Aldermen comments.
I
I
just
guess I
have,
just have
Go
one question. Again, at the last meeting, we brought up whether we were going to continue to have the concerts in the park, and you all decided to delay a decision till this meeting on June 2nd. Our concert in the park is scheduled for June 12th. So I definitely need a decision so I can contact the band to let them know whether yes, they are going to appear, or no, we're not going to have it. So we need.
It's actually on the agenda.
set number 7.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Okay. No, it's no big deal, Mike. Well, we should have an answer by then, so you can pass that along.
I have a comment about the striping on the highway again. It's, I know it's just a real pain, but
No,
my
it's not.
goodness, MoDOT has got to give us some assistance. They seem to have money for multiple projects, but we cannot get these highways striped. It is really to the point of being ridiculous. What can we do? Terry, I know you've fought this battle and fought it. Is Eric Meninga not there anymore, or has everyone just washed their hands of us?
So let me ask you this. Are you talking specifically about striping on Highway 47?
Yes.
Okay.
Mainly.
Right, but on the overpass and in the intersections to the
Of all
north and south of the overpass.
Yeah. Yes.
on Highway 47.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am not sure, and Guy may be able to give us more information, but the last time we addressed this, we were told that it has to be done in conjunction with them bringing the striping equipment. They finally did address Veterans Memorial, part of it, but never really adequately took care of Highway 47. Eric is still there, as far as I'm aware. The only thing I can suggest is that we address it again and see if we can push to get them back into town to do more.
Okay.
And I can certainly do that.
I really think we need to do something about this. You know, I'm not the only person that has trouble as it gets later on in the day
Sure.
figuring out what lane I'm supposed to be in. It can't only be me.
I don't have issues. I mean, there's one big lane I can drive in. Huge.
Yeah, but who's going to pull you over, Eric?
Yeah, well, they probably would, trust me. But it does, you're right. I mean, I got crowded the other day and I thought, I can't get mad at this guy because there's no striping.
No, you can't tell where you're supposed to be. If it happens to be raining, you're really in trouble out there right now. And younger drivers and older drivers, we have a tough time out there. So I think we need to get something done.
I will see what I can get done.
Thank you.
While you're seeing what you can get done, Terry, could the weeds along 47 going north from the four-way stop through town, if they get much taller, we're going to cover the cars up. You know, they got to be at least 3 feet tall now. Is that the MoDOT that should be taking care of that?
Well, there's two answers to your question. Yes, it should be MoDOT. However, we have been mowing along 47 for quite some time now because we were dissatisfied with the frequency of their mowing. It is actually Brad's crew who takes care of that. So we certainly can get that taken care of because it is within our control.
Yeah. If you notice and go north, the weeds are tall.
Okay. And it may be because of all the rain, because I know if it's wet, they have trouble getting the tractor in certain parts of that. But
Okay.
we will put that on Brad's to-do list and we can certainly get that taken care of.
Okay. Thank you, Terry.
You're
And
welcome.
we can give him a shout out to his crew because south of town, it looks pretty good. So they've done the south side. So that's good.
Okay.
Any other comments?
I had a couple of couples that walk at the park, and do we have any idea when we're gonna open the restrooms?
The answer would be no. At this point in time, we aren't comfortable opening restrooms unless we can dedicate someone there to do disinfecting. And there are multiple issues. The last time we had them open with the disappearance of toilet paper and supplies from our restroom facilities. So I wouldn't anticipate restrooms being open until we are in another phase of this reopening process. And it would be safe not to be disinfected between customers and uses.
Okay. Do we have any idea when the next phase is gonna?
We do not. I actually listened to Governor Parsons this afternoon and someone asked him that question. Right now, the current phase is up to June 15th, and then he will reevaluate and let us all know where we go from there. So
In other words, if we don't have another Lake of the Ozark incident, maybe.
We are hopeful. We are hopeful.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Terry.
I hate to say that it's based on that, but I think that's what he's looking at is, if we're using common sense and things seem at least calm to a degree, he's planning on moving ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, they tried to pin him down today and
He wasn't going to have it.
he would not commit to where it goes from here, just that it will be reevaluated prior to June 15th.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I'm going to keep mine short and sweet, but I am going to say I appreciate a lot of feedback I've gotten lately, which has been positive, for the city trying to work with people, work with businesses. I've had several business owners voice concerns, but not in a negative manner, just asking questions, asking when things are going to move forward, asking if the governor goes backward, is there any way we can go forward? I appreciate that they're keeping up on what's happening within our community and voicing what their customers are saying to them. Yet every restaurant I've visited is pretty much trying to maintain as close to compliance as they can. There's some things that people may do within your restaurant, and you kind of tell them nicely, "Hey, please don't do that." But I think they've handled it pretty well. I've tried to get out in the community and see that. I've been invited a couple places, and I just think it's great because some places that could probably get away with some things are just saying morally and ethically it's not right, and let's keep what's going on. And I've even said, hey, when I walk out of here, you guys could do that. No, we're really trying to. We want to honor our customers' wishes and comply. I said, guys, I'm just glad to hear you say it. I mean, even when you're offered to, hey, when I walk out of here, you're still holding to it. And I know it because other people are telling me that when I'm not around or when I'm not here or when another alderman's not here, you guys are still complying. I think we sometimes get distracted and forget to say thank you to those people. The number one, you're open, you didn't close. And number two, without being it's shoved down your throat, you're willing to comply and make it through this. That has a lot to say about our community, and I appreciate that. That's it for me. Next will be concerts in the park.
So the only thing that we needed to do to provide information to you was to survey surrounding cities and just bring back the information from the decisions that they have made. It looks like an extensive survey was done. As far as June concerts in the park, Wright City and Washington have both canceled June, but both said that July was still under consideration and they were hopeful. Troy doesn't have concerts, but has movies in the park, and they have canceled those for the month of June. And Melody, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see anyone who has said that they are having a June concert in the park, but many locations that are anxious to perhaps be able to do it in July. They seem to be following the governor's order, and because we are still in phase one, seems to be at least part of the consideration that they are taking in making that decision. Other than that, Brandon or Melody or someone has something else to offer, but we didn't really know what else to do to provide you with information other than just to survey what everyone else was doing.
So do you either one of you two have something to share?
Anyone of me or?
No. Brady
Melody.
or Melody?
I think the only one that we couldn't reach was Marthasville, was the only one that we had left that was in the surrounding area that we couldn't reach. I believe that's correct.
And Mike may have more information. I think he's working in conjunction with them through the Fine Arts Council. Guys, I'm just going to go ahead.
Are you asking about Marthasville?
Yeah, in a moment. I was just going to share real quick. I'm going to be brief on my end. I'm going to tell you, I'm a split 50-50 on this because I am ready for things to come out. We've had a minimal amount of cases. I get that. I don't know if it's fully going against the governor's order, to be honest. If we were able to comply with what we talked about last time with Chris Creville, I'm kind of ready for this to go. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in our community that are ready for not full open, but let's get some stuff going that's active and allowing them to get out a little more. Maybe I'm wrong, you guys. I mean, that's why I'm kind of saying this at the beginning. I want you guys to talk about it and voice what you've heard, voice what you've heard from people, and in your own personal opinions.
What I'm hearing from people is, just as you said, Eric, they're ready to get out.
Exactly.
To be outdoors. That's why when we talked about this last month, I was for moving forward with having these concerts in June. If you're not comfortable, you don't have to attend. But there are people out there who right now are saying, I'm ready to get out. I want to enjoy an evening out. And I still believe that you can socially distance. If you feel the need to wear a mask, but let's move forward.
Well, I believe your biggest
That's
hurdle is
just
the
my-
restroom
that's just my-
situation.
Yeah.
The restroom situation's the biggest hurdle.
Yes. I feel like if you're allowed to go into a business right now, why on earth can we not open our park up to a concert? I don't understand.
I think we need to move forward. I think having it outside lends, in my opinion, so let's go ahead and have it in June. So we're not confined inside a building, a room, plenty of room outside. So that's where I stand.
Anyone else?
I agree. I'm ready to have the concert outside. What do we have anybody that wants to have input on the bathroom situation? If we have the concert, we're going to have the bathroom open. Are we?
Scott, I was in Columbia over the weekend, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Columbia area where Stevens Park is. It's a lovely park. It's directly across from Boone Hospital. It's huge. And their restrooms were open this weekend, and their playgrounds were open this weekend. And I was a little uncomfortable with my grandkids and the playground equipment, but their restrooms were open. So at some point, we can provide hand sanitizer and things in the restrooms, as well as, being able to wash their hands. And when the concert's over, lock it back up.
I would agree.
Can we assign one of our employees to be on hand during the concert at the restrooms to do whatever's necessary to make them safe and so forth?
I'm not sure what employee that would be, but if that's something that you all want us to figure out, then we will figure out how to do so.
Can we ask for a volunteer
Sure.
from the city staff to, I'm not saying unpaid, I'm
Right.
asking if we could just say, well, would you like to work that night? And,
Maybe not during the day.
not forcing someone to take on that task, but
Sure. We can certainly try that.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment? All right. Entertain a motion to allow the June concerts in the park and to allow the restroom to be open at that time.
Moved.
Second.
Motion made by, I believe it was Alderman Schultz, seconded by, was it Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
I don't know, should I abstain or not? Since I'm
No.
kind of both being with the Arts Council and everything, but I would say yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
We lost. We lost Alderman Ock.
he's gone. Okay.
Yes.
I don't see him on my screen.
He's back. He just said yes. Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. All right, next item will be the discussion item, which would be the ground mount solar panels.
So we put this item on for discussion because there has become I don't know how new of an interest in it, but a more intense interest in the installation of solar panels in town. And there's a company out there who I think is marketing in Warren County for solar panels and their installation. We have not in the past had permits issued to the extent that being made for panels that are actually mounted on the ground. Typically they're on the rooftop. So before we proceeded with this to any great extent, we wanted to find out what your thoughts were and if this is something that you want to allow them to be mounted on the ground, or if you prefer to keep them on rooftops, or what your preferences are so that we know how to proceed. And I think Chris Graville has done research kind of on this and what's happened in other places.
Yes. So solar panels, they're one of these kind of, I don't want to say special interests, but these special protections by state statute where we have to allow people to have solar panels on their property. I think the issue that has arisen in my research with regards to the proposed application that really we wanted to bring to staff to get your opinion on is, as of right now, if I live in Warrior Ridge, for example, I have a standard size city lot. A solar panel application is treated as a accessory use, which means there are limitations as far as it can't be closer than 10 feet from the residence. It cannot be with any easements or setbacks. So you can't put it in the corner of a yard, but you are allowed to put solar panels in. And so in looking at a lot of different cities, how they handle it, and some require a conditional use permit, some require just an administrative approval permit. But one thing I think that we don't have currently in our municipal code when this application came up that staff and myself talked about was the fact that we have no height limitation beyond the height limitation of the primary structure. So for example, you want these up off the ground so they're not in a shaded area, and you can put them for, just for argument's sake, 12 feet high in the yard. And if you think about Warrior Ridge, you're not going to be able to put a privacy fence up as a neighbor that's going to cover that. So I think the first question for the board is, do you want to regulate these further than what we already regulate them? And obviously they have to get building permits and all the other stuff, structure permits, permanent structure permits from the building commissioner. But do you want to regulate these more? Do you want to require conditional use permit? I think you have to allow them because, like I said, they're kind of this special interest protected property right. But looking at a lot of cities have a limitation that basically, either you have to fence around it or your neighbor has to have the ability to put a fence to screen it. So whether it's a 6 feet total height or an 8 feet total height, that there's some requirements, there that, there's the ability to screen from your neighbor having this structure there. So we've never talked about it before. It's a new question that's come up. So question number one is, do you guys want to do anything to regulate it further? If you do, in what way do you want to regulate it further? We have a couple of different ideas of how we can work it into the code, and kind of your range of options, your a la carte is, expanding the restrictions on it as an accessory use like a shed or any other structure in your backyard, or to make it a full-blown conditional use permit where they have to submit a site plan and whatnot for review of it. So we wanted to bring it to you guys, kind of get what you guys wanted us to do and get some direction from the mayor and the board.
What size would these panels be?
Mike?
This particular array is 20 feet long, 15 feet wide, and will be 12 to 15 feet at the highest point. Well, some yards would have a problem fitting that in there, wouldn't they? Probably not. The height is always going to be restrictive as the lay of the land in the yard, how much slope there is, and how well they can face that southwest area.
Well, a couple of thoughts I have on this. One is, I don't see much of a difference between somebody putting in a complex playground in their backyard versus a solar panel. I would also like to see us not go through conditional use on this, but because of the time and expense related to that, I would prefer that it be done through administrative approval process by the city employees, which I think cut down costs and inconvenience on the part of the person putting it in. My only concern about height is I don't think if it's on the ground, it should exceed the height of the building on the property. So if the house is typically 12 feet, I guess the outside walls are maybe 10, 12 feet. I don't think it should extend beyond some point of the roof on the ground, because you don't want to look across an area and see a bunch of solar panels sticking up above the homes. So those are my initial thoughts.
I'm concerned about this subdivision issue. Of course, I'm for solar energy, but I would prefer to see them on rooftops as opposed to, when I think about driving through my neighborhood, your neighbor's backyard very often is visible to you unless you have a privacy fence. And I'm not sure how many neighbors would appreciate looking out at a 12-foot solar panel in their backyard. I feel like perhaps if it was something that would comply with the standard fence, or the standard height of a vinyl fence, and their yard was fenced, if it could be, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how many homes we have right here in this subdivision, and I understand everybody's not going to go out and buy solar panels, but aesthetically, I certainly would prefer that they were on the roof as opposed to in yards. That's just my thought.
One point I want to make on at least the inquiries we've had, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mike, their primary location is on the roof, but the way I understand it from staff discussion is if your house is not facing the right direction, if you want a certain amount of wattage, you may have to put some. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, it is. They could not acquire all the wattage their house required. That's why the additional ground array has been proposed.
So, but I think that's a good point. Do you make a preliminary requirement that they have to exhaust the roof options first before they can do ground? There are companies out there that will just do a ground farm and I've been in other cities and have seen other cities where that's been an issue for the neighbors with regards to that height. To Alderman Ock's point, I wanted to point out under our code, section 405.255, the height is restricted currently for an accessory use in that it shall not exceed the height of the primary building. So we do have that in code, Alderman Ock, currently.
You're muted.
What?
You're muted.
Who?
Yeah, I think it should apply in this situation. I think that that would be a good standard. We could just fit it right in. When we talk about aesthetics, I mean, at what point in time does the aesthetics of one person contradict the aesthetics of somebody else? And what rights do I have as an individual to put something in my yard that I would consider practical and useful and aesthetically pleasing, as opposed to, well, the neighbor doesn't like us, so therefore I can't do it. I think that's where you run into a little sticky wicket on this, is when you start doing that, because you're really denying somebody's rights to use their property in a reasonable manner. And it's hard to believe that putting a solar panel would be an unreasonable request.
I don't think it's an unreasonable request. I just think that you are going to have a lot of people that are very upset by looking out at that. I know from experience from families at the lake area who have done this in their yards, and trust me, the neighbors are not happy campers. So.
Well, I would say, that you're talking about aesthetics and what one neighbor thinks about the others. If I remember back when we were talking about, the way some of these houses look, and especially when we were talking about the mildew on the side of the houses and everything, and
Yeah.
we wanted to try to get those cleaned up and everything. And if I remember right, Gary, you were totally against us trying to enforce something for that. So I don't know. I'm all for solar panels, but I think this is something maybe we need to take a little longer look at and not jump right in on it right now. I think we need to do a little more study on it, get a little more feedback from other areas, municipalities that have these, that do allow them, and maybe go from there. So.
I agree, but one thing that I do agree with Gary is I don't want them to have to go through some huge permit process once we decide whether or not these are going to be a viable solution to their electric bills.
No, I agree with that too.
I do not want to, if we decide this is what we want to do, let's not make it difficult for those who choose to do it.
Agreed.
Well, the problem we're going to run into is we have some folks who are waiting for us now who have requested either approval or what we need to do. So we can take some time making a decision, but understand that in the meantime, those who are applying to do this will have to approve or do something, because we can't just keep them waiting indefinitely.
I don't think we can deny it by statute. I think we have to allow it. It's just a matter of the parameters around.
Right. So
Terry, have they identified what type of solar do they want? Roof panels? Do they want a yard?
My understanding, and Mike can answer this better than I, my understanding they've requested the ground mount, correct?
They're doing roof and ground.
Roof and
No.
Roof and ground.
That's what they applied for, Mike, is roof and ground?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think the roof ones we've already clarified, and they've gone up in the past here, so we have that parameter set up, don't we?
Yes.
It's just the ground ones that
Ground.
we need to figure out the parameters around.
I mean, in some ways, this is a decision you make and don't necessarily put off for an extended time period so you could do more research. I think we could come to some kind of understanding of intent to the discussion. And I think everybody, is there anybody who would say, I absolutely don't want to see any ground panels at all in any yards?
No,
not gonna say I don't
Oh, I
want to
don't think it, well,
No.
first of all, I don't know that we can deny it. It's just the parameters around it. I think it's
yeah.
clear that we can't deny
So that's the
ground.
point.
And
So it's really a decision of deciding what parameters do we want to put around this. And so,
Well,
I mean,
I understand
what
that,
would
but I
be
mean,
different?
if people are wanting to get more conclusions from other cities, I'm not going to deny them. That's why I'm not going to push forward. It's just a discussion question for tonight.
Well, I think Chris, can you give us information on other cities?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, depending on what municipality you go to, they handle it very differently. It sounds like, and if I can kind of walk through a couple of things here, the board is not intending to make it a zoning, conditional use, public hearing, site plan, correct?
No, that's right.
Then I think the next level down is, do you want us to create some type of administrative permit, solar permit under the zoning code? Or do you just want to, set standards, expand the accessory use, which doesn't require a permit? Remember, the solar panels have to get building permits, an electrical permit and a structure permit. I'm sure there's wind loads that Mike has to look at. If I'm wrong, Mike, jump in.
That's correct.
There is a permitting process for the structure itself. The question is, we can fit this in under our accessory use to add some additional regulations. And how I think we would do it is, and I think what the question comes down to is, do you want to put a height limitation? Do you want to make it so? That's one of the things I saw in the other cities. They don't allow it to be taller than the, neighbor's privacy fence, for example, which is, Mike, what's the height of a privacy fence in a single family residential?
6 feet.
Okay, so they don't allow it, larger than 6 feet, or maybe you say no taller than 8 feet, so it's only 2 feet sticking over a neighbor's fence. And then I think the other question is, you can have larger setbacks, so it's in the center of the yard. It already has some setbacks that are in place, and I can read those for you. It can't be great. It cannot occupy more than, in our current code, current regulations, solar panels cannot occupy more than 30% of the rear yard. And it cannot be closer than 5 feet from the rear side lot line and not less than 10 feet from any portion of the main building. And then it cannot be located in any required drainage area or a recorded easement area. So there's already some location requirements. As Mike gave you kind of those parameters, that's, Mike referred to it when we talked. It's not huge, so it's not going to really keep it from being put in there. It's going to kind of center mass it a little bit. So the question is, do you want to require, if you put them up, do you want the additional expense that they have to have a privacy fence? Do you want to allow the neighbor to just put the fence up? And, I think what it really comes down to is, based on this discussion we've had for the last 10 minutes, is, do you put a height restriction in it? Because I think if you put a height restriction in it, you're going to have, no more than 30%, say it's no taller than 6 feet in height. It can't be closer than 5 feet from the main building. Or 5 feet from the rear side lot line, no more than 10 feet from the main building. You cannot have it in an easement, and you cannot have it in a drainage area. I mean, that's already what's there. I think the only question is, for me in the discussion, is, well, the two questions are, do you want a separate permit? Even though they're already getting a building permit. And if you don't want that, do you want to require a height restriction of, say, 6 feet, or something where if I live next to them in Warrior Ridge, I can put a 6 feet up, privacy fence up, and I don't have to, see it.
So I can tell you,
Yeah, would be to go with the height restriction and not another permit. I don't want to do another permit if they're doing a building permit. I'm tired of dinging people to permit every nitpicking thing.
I also don't want any more setbacks. I mean, where they put it in their yard in accordance with what's there is fine. We go saying they got to put it in the center of their yard. I'm just not for that.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you, and it's going to be hard to hide this thing with the lay of the land in some of these subdivisions. You can
Well,
stand in your yard, look down on one. That fence would have to be 12 foot high to try to hide it.
But if you got a
Yeah.
dog that's tearing up your yard,
Yeah,
I mean, you're not required to put up a fence so you don't see a trashed out yard.
right.
I'd rather see that panel than a trashed out yard personally.
Well, I think simple regulations, no additional permit, make it as simple as possible and as reasonable as possible.
Is everybody agreeing with the 6 foot tall?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I've been searching on Google and I went through about 4 pages of different, some of them are gaudy and ugly. Some of them look great. I've even seen some of the ground mount ones that they've done as a carport, but a carport underneath their car. But yeah, I think a 6 foot height would be sufficient. Some of these are a lot taller than that, but
My question would be on a 6 foot, is that going to be, will they get the full benefit of the solar use if it's lower, if it's 6 foot, or if it needs to be a little higher?
Honestly, Mike,
Depending on the angle, I guess.
Mike, yeah, it depends on the positioning of their house. Depends on the positioning of their house, positioning of how the sun hits it, and it depends on a lot of factors. But I mean, that's somebody that they're going to have to hire to come in and assess that and show them.
I don't want to put a lot of restrictions on them, though.
Yeah, I don't either.
I agree.
I mean, to me, if we put the height restriction on it and we put it through the process of permitting, and there's certain setbacks that people have to comply to anyway on anything, and it goes within the setback, I don't think we should require somebody to put a fence up, because if it's not appealing to their neighbor can put the fence up. If the kid next door to me puts a new playground in for his kid to play and I don't like it, well, that's not his responsibility to put a fence around his playground. It's my responsibility to do that. So I don't think we should require a fencing requirement on.
No, I don't either.
I agree.
So Terry, right now, all you're looking for is guidance to guide some of our staff into a ordinance to be written. I think the only thing we're requiring is the 6 foot height. And if there's anybody that disagrees, speak up now.
Nope.
I'm pretty sure the 6 foot is about the only requirement with the standard setbacks that we're looking at that are already in place.
I think that's pretty easy. We can make that change and initiate that process.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
Well, done.
problem solved.
And I don't think we don't need a motion to proceed with that, do we?
Nope, because it's going to come back to the board for approval after it goes through planning and zoning.
Anybody else need any discussion points on this?
Nope.
Okay. Well, let's move on to hear City Administrator Terry Thorne.
My only for you this
question before you
Go
move
ahead,
on.
Gary.
Why does it have to go to P&Z? If it's
Because
through the permit process, why does?
It's an accessory use. So that is located in the zoning code. That's where we regulate accessory uses. So that's where we'll just simply add in that part of the process.
Okay, all right, that's my question. Sorry, Terry.
That's all right. Just a couple things for you. Notes of interest. We have a budget meeting next Tuesday on June 9th, either in person or through Zoom, whichever you prefer. You just need to let me know or let Melody know what your plan is. I've heard from several of you that you're going to Zoom in, so I'm not sure how much in person we are actually going to have. So we really need to know that so we can plan accordingly. So if you'd let us know, then we will be prepared for that. Budget's coming along fairly well. Not one of my favorite years to work on budget, but surprisingly, spend a lot of time on sales tax, looking at that and projections over the last week. And I am pleased that the increased grocery and toilet paper sales over the last couple of months have actually surpassed those things that we were not collecting on. So
What about the alcohol? The alcohol sales have got to be through the roof.
well, that may be part because I think they're buying their alcohol at the grocery, along with their groceries, perhaps. McDonald's, Walmart pickup, who knows? But we're going to come out.
McDonald's? Has McDonald's got that now?
Well, they could be creative, you know.
It's a new business.
Yeah, there you go. Get it with your McDonald's burger. So we are actually going to come out right at budget for the current year. And then it looks like projections for next year will be basically the current year actuals plus some because we've got the Rural King in now. So that's all I think as well as we could possibly have hoped for given everything that's happened. So pleased
Good.
about that, but budget meeting on Tuesday. There was a meeting of the CARES committee that is looking at the reimbursements from the funding that the county received, and the chief and city attorney Reville attended that meeting and represented us there. And Chris, do you want to give the board an update on that meeting, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I attended last Thursday the CARES meeting at the Warren County Commission with the present at the meeting were the Warren County Commissioners, Mr. Egan, is that his name? From Chad Egan from Regional Planning, Mike Daniel, the Emergency Director. Also present was the CARES Committee, which is Ed Busher, Tom Kemper, and Schweiss Goose. I know I'm probably not pronouncing that right. I never could, even when I was a city attorney in Martha's-Ville, who sold off recently, I guess, in the last couple of years, sold off the tractor equipment sale. So it was, in preparing for the meeting, we didn't really know what to expect with regards to the reception from the county commissioners. All the emergency services agencies were present at the meeting except for Warrenton Fire. I didn't see their representative there. And basically, I will report back that it was a very friendly meeting. They're really just getting started and trying to figure out how to distribute the $4.2 million they received from the state of Missouri through the federal allocation of the CARES Act money. They made it a big point to stress that their goal is to be extremely transparent through this process. The phase one of this is really to get personal protective equipment for emergency services agencies. I think it was interesting to note out of the meeting that every Thursday, I believe it is, the emergency service agencies are either doing a Zoom or a phone call where they're kind of sharing information and getting information together with regards to PPE and Corona and crime and whatnot. And it was expressed multiple times that this is the best they've ever gotten along and how great it's been working together. I will tell you from my perspective and the city's perspective, it was very good to hear that their number one priority are the emergency service workers and agencies. I did stress to them when, of course, they gave an opportunity to talk, so I talked. I know that may surprise a lot of you, but I did stress the importance of maintaining the level of emergency service workers out there, whether it's 911, ambulance, police, and fire, and the uncertain times with regards to the finances, and asking them to consider some of the expanded allowances for the use of the money under the CARES Act, considering that emergency service workers are their number one priority. And they express their willingness to consider all that information and consider those expenditures. And I think generally speaking, although there was not a lot accomplished, it was a very good meeting. It was a really good opportunity for all the providers to kind of get together and talk. And as I said before, I was very, very happy to hear that that is going to be their first priority. And their intention is to consider any and all expenditures despite the limitations of the resolution. So we're going to continue to be vigilant on it, work with the other agencies, and we'll bring back reports as that information is available. We know more about how the distributions will take place.
Chris, were other agencies forthcoming about how much they have spent towards the COVID-19?
So I think that, you know, because of my involvement they were, yes, but their focus was on personal protection equipment. You know, Terry and I have been monitoring this CARES Act from the beginning and the interpretations of it. So our expenditures, I think ours were right around $200,000,
Right.
all authorized, clearly authorized under the CARES Act. The other agencies were much smaller, and I think in talking with them, I don't know that they really realized that that was COVID-related expenses, and I think you'll see some adjustments in their next submittal to include some of the things. I mean, to be honest with you, I felt as though the chief and I were providing some degree of education regarding, you know, from an emergency service personnel standpoint with regards to this money. And, you know, we're going to continue the conversations. We've already had some really good follow-up conversations, and, you know, hopefully all the agencies work together in, you know, submitting their requests.
Good. Good.
Any other questions for Chris or Terry?
No.
Terry, anything else you have?
That's all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Director of Operations, Randy Walters.
Good evening. I wanted to let you know, so we have tourism recommendations tonight from a meeting that we had on May 26th, last Tuesday. They are requesting funds. All of these were in the budget. They're requesting funds for the Tribute to Veterans Memorial for $5,000. This is a reimbursement for expenses that they've already paid out for electric and utilities and some signage that they're doing. And then another reimbursement for $15,860. This is the reimbursement to the city from tourism funds that helps pay for the event coordination of the Fall Festival and the various events that tourism funds. And then also Dairy Queen for $600 for the interstate attraction sign, which is an annual reimbursement. That brings the total of recommendation to $21,460.
Are there any questions on that?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the tourism recommendation in the amount of $21,460.
Moved.
Second.
Was that you, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Deloy. Roll call vote.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
That's all that I have for you.
Okay. All right, next we'll hear from Finance Officer Dana Belasca.
Hello again. So you have before you a list of claims for your approval this evening. The claims total $656,169.03. Were there any questions related to that list of claims?
No, not from me.
Not for me.
All right. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $656,169.03.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Shell Harvey, seconded by Alderman Miller. Roll call vote.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey, Alderman
Yes.
Shell.
I thought you already asked me, okay.
Motion passes
Yeah.
6-0. So, and I know this is a bad question. Can anybody hear that? Can you guys hear a dog howling in the background?
I'm having a hard time. There's something interfering here once in a while too.
Oh, no, I've got a vocal beagle. I'm just making sure it's not too
No.
vocal and drowning out over here.
I don't hear him.
She
No.
seems to want to be in the room. So, sorry if it's loud. I apologize. All right, Dana, I'm sorry. Next.
No problem. Also before you, you have the financials for April. So just a few highlights. In the general fund, you'll notice that revenues are about 241,000 below budget. Highlights there would be sales tax, as Terry discussed. While it is slightly below budget for the month of April, about 40,000 in the general fund. What we anticipate seeing by year end is that we will be within budget. So that's good news. You will notice also that court and police revenues are down. Again, we haven't had several court sessions with all the concerns going on right now. So, you know, they will be down through the end of the year. You also notice that there's a large chunk, 250,000, that's just some loan proceeds that won't come to us until June. So that'll all be fine by year end. In the general fund expenses, they are running about 582,000 below budget. The majority of that, are about 287,000, is related to personnel costs. So again, some vacancies, things like that. The balance then would be training, supplies, maintenance, things we anticipate spending by year end. In the water and sewer fund, they're about $277,000 above budget. So industrial sewer, about 107,000 above. The other part of that is about $136,000 related to connection fees. Again, the additional new housing starts. In the operating expenses in that water and sewer fund, they are below budget, 234,000. 94,000 is related to personnel cost, 46,000 below in electric costs to date. Pump repairs are running about 43,000 below. And here again, the balance that is related to supplies and maintenance that we anticipate spending. So that's just a few highlights off those April financials. Were there any questions related to those? If not, that's all I had.
I don't believe so. I appreciate it, Dana. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Aquatics Director, Lisa Kramer.
Good evening. The pool is up and running, and we've had a steady crowd this month. Our highest date was actually yesterday with 31 members coming to swim. So things are going really well out at the pool. Renew Active is now available for those resident or those people that want to take out Renew Active membership. And May is National Water Safety Month, so we have spent a lot of time on Facebook this month doing little ads about drowning prevention to get the message out to keep everybody safe this summer, since we can't do swim lessons at this time. Other than that, you guys have the report for the month. That's all I have.
Any questions on the report?
I have a question, Lisa. Are we getting any pushback from people who just show up and say, well, I want to come swimming, and we explain that you have to have a membership? Has that been a regular occurrence?
Not at all. We have not had anybody, to my knowledge, show up wanting to rec swim and not being able to. We get a lot of phone calls, but nobody has just shown up.
But you've received phone calls about the issue of why can't I, because I don't have a membership, come and do rec swim or anything?
We've gotten phone calls for wanting to do rec swim and wanting to know why they can't. And I explained that we at this time can't social distance a rec swim situation. And we're just waiting for Governor Parsons' guidance and CDC direction But nobody's been upset about it or consistently asking.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
And we'll move on. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. So next we'll hear from Public Works Director Guy Jeevers.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. First time I have is my monthly report. One of the things that we completed for the year was our wet test. That passed on the 14th. So that's what that does, is measure the effluent coming out into the stream. So that's a good thing. They've done some pothole repair and some dirt work on Pinckney Street, and we had 3 sewer calls. 2 of them were on private and 1 was on city side. You got any questions over the monthly report?
Any questions on the monthly report?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Let's move on next item.
Next item I have, I'm asking for approval for BFA engineering for professional service for Old Highway 40 sidewalk improvement for the amount of $37,970. Budget amount was $43,700. This is for sidewalk from Market Street running to Rural King, and this is only the engineering and not any construction cost, just the engineering for that phase. So I need approval for that.
Any questions on that, guys?
I'm sorry, from Market Street to Rural King?
Along Veterans Memorial.
Along the service road. Okay, I'm with you.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the BFA professional services agreement on Old Highway 40 sidewalk improvements in the amount of $37,970.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Dyer, seconded by Alderman Shelby. Roll call vote.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next item.
Next item, I'm asking for approval for BFA engineering for professional service for West Boonslick Road widening and storm sewer design in the amount of $66,276. The budget amount was $69,000. This is getting widening the road and stormwater from Highway U to the railroad. This is only engineering.
Guy, I have a question for you. BFA professional services, have we used them before, or do we use them on a regular basis?
They're the same one that did the sidewalk on Main Street in front of the restaurants. That was the same engineering company there.
Okay, they did a good job there.
And they also did some of the pool work too.
Okay, so we have a track record.
Yes, sir, we do.
Any other questions for Guy on this issue?
No.
I will entertain a motion to approve the BFA professional services agreement for West Boonslick Road widening and storm sewer design in the amount of $66,276.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Dyer. Roll call vote.
Alderman Miller,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Shell Harvey,
Yes.
Alderman Dyer,
Yes.
Alderman Ock,
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0. Is that it, Guy?
Yes, sir, it is. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Guy. Thank you.
Thanks, Guy.
I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Who would, I'm sorry, I didn't copy. Who was the first one?
So moved. Mike Shelby.
Got it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, I think we need to take a second and recognize Alderman Shell-Harvey, who's been on the board for many, many years, and he's not running again, and wish him well and thank him for his years of service. And if we didn't have to social
Well
distance,
put.
Right out of my
and if we
mouth.
didn't have to, and if we didn't have to social distance, we could take him out for a beer, but I know he doesn't drink beer, so.
Well, if you would so indulge us when we are done with the social distancing, Mike, I would still like to have you back and honor you.
On what now? On the 16th?
Whenever we can, once we're done with the social
Well,
distancing.
I think
I'd
I
love to
have
have
to
you
be
up
here
there.
the 16th.
I would love to have you recognized in front of
All
everybody.
right, is our next meeting going to be Zoom again too? Did we ever decide that?
I don't think we did. I think we're waiting. We're on the hinge of the governor. We're waiting on the governor.
Oh, okay. You're
Uh-uh.
right.
That next phase will go up on the 15th, right?
That's right. So, hey, it might slide right in there.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you, Alderman Ock. I appreciate that. And I have enjoyed working with you all. I know we've had our differences over the years and everything, but I do want to say that I highly respect everybody's input on this board. I think everybody's always had some different I would say specialties that they bring, and I know you've got there's going to be some big challenges coming up. So I hope whoever wins tonight the election, I hope they're willing to work with you all and keep the city moving. And I think was a good positive direction. So,
Thanks, Mike.
And you bring up a good point. If anybody out there has never been able to, or been introduced or introduced themselves to Alderman Shell-Harvey, I will say he brought up the greatest point ever, is that I've seen some fracture on boards before. Alderman Shell-Harvey's always voiced his opinion in a respectful manner. And even when it looked like maybe tensions were there, we never walked away from a board where we didn't sit down and still shake hands and say, everything's good. We just needed to voice what we felt like for our constituents. And Alderman Shell-Harvey was always a great representative of that. And I do appreciate it, because I know sometimes you don't want to come back after an extended leave because you were on the board and then off, and then you came back. And that's tough sometimes because the stress can be there. I just do appreciate it, Mike. I really do. And I appreciate everything you've said and everything you've done while serving on the board.
Good job,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thanks.
and as far as going to have a party after the meeting, Alderman Ock is one that I'm sure he can remember back in the 90s when we did have some disagreements on the board. It seemed like they were all settled afterwards at Sportsman's Bar. Is that right, Gary?
You're still muted,
Alderman
Gary.
Ock, is that correct?
You're still muted.
Did he leave already?
No, he's there. He's muted.
He went for a beer.
Anyway, thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
You, Mike.
So I do have a motion on the board or on the floor to adjourn, and it was made by Alderman Shell-Harvey and seconded by Alderman Delloy. All I really need, guys, if you want to make some more comments towards Alderman Shell-Harvey, you're more than welcome. But after
I'll be at the pub. I'll be at the pub.
all I need is all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. We're so adjourned. Thanks, folks.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, y'all.
Well, Bart stuck with us the whole time, too. How do I leave this?
See you guys.
Yeah.